You may have to edit some of the front of this. And welcome back to WMMBAM.com. It is our candidate interviews on the video on demand section of the website. We're considering in this portion the Melbourne City Council race in District 1. Mike Nowlin is the incumbent. Mike, thanks for being here. Good to have you along.
Glad to be here.
Tim Thomas, the challenger. Good to see you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Pleasure.
Guys, let's talk real briefly, and I may let you question each other a little bit and talk to each other back and forth. We'll have about 10 minutes here. I want to know what you believe the main issues are facing the city and what you'd like to see happen. Mike, you're sitting there dealing with it every day. Tell me what you're seeing.
Thank you very much. Overall, the city's doing really well. I mean, we've had good financial leadership, but we still need to maintain a vigilance on these police and fire pensions and roads, and our infrastructures is still critical. I've been working my butt off to try to get more money for roads, and it's come slow, but we've managed to get a little bit of that up, but it's coming slow. There's just not a lot of excess cash to go around. So,
when you talk about getting more money for roads, what avenues are you pursuing?
Well, when we had stimulus money, we did take advantage of a lot of stimulus money that the feds came out with us a couple of years ago. I've managed to cut back on our vehicles and just looking around and finding places that we could just cut back a little bit in the city and moving that money to roads as opposed to continuing the services that they were doing.
Other major issues you see in this campaign?
That's, like I said, the city overall is doing really well, and our current manager has done a great job keeping us out of the red with our financial piece of it. So, you know, we're stable, and we haven't had to lay anybody off. We've offered some early buyouts, which have helped people retire and helped us out financially. But that's been a saving grace for us.
All right, Tim Thomas, I would imagine since you're running, you see things a little differently. Tell me what you see the major races are, or major issues are in the race.
Yes, sir, and thank you, Bill, for having me this morning.
Sure.
As I go out and canvass and I talk to voters, the big concerns that they have is obviously declining property values, the poor economy. And then also the scope and scope of government. People are concerned about taxes, property taxes possibly being raised. Every dollar is important with this economy, and they're trying to stretch their dollars as much as possible. And I know here just recently there was a vote in City Council about the millage rate for the upcoming fiscal year, and the city staff recommended a millage rate of 6.90. But my opponent, Mr. Nowlin, seconded a motion to raise the millage rate to 6.92. And again, that's not the conservative values that, as Republicans, that we should be pursuing as far as less taxes, less government, and being physically responsible. So those are the kinds of the concerns that I'm hearing as I go out and I canvass.
All right, very good. Mike, let me talk to you then about the millage rate increase. Why did you see it was necessary, and what do you think about that?
Well, the 6.92 was what we had been paying, or what everybody was paying, and what the deal was we were going to take that money and put it towards roads, the extra money. We came up with a plan to drop it to 6.9, which I voted for that. I would rather have had the extra money for roads, but the rest of the council thought, roads are a problem and this infrastructure is a problem, but we need to give everybody a break, so we'll go with that.
All right, while we're talking roads, let's talk red light cameras. I thought it was a bad decision on the part of the city to implement red light cameras in the city of Melbourne. It's a money grab and nothing else. You can't give me an argument that makes me think it's safety. Mike, where did you stand on the red light camera issue?
I like the red lights. When they came up 6 years ago with the original police chief, I thought he did a great presentation, and the council didn't want to do it. When I got on council, I brought it back. It's a 100% public safety issue, and I know everybody says it's a money grab. We make like $70 on this. So in order to ensure that it wasn't just going in the general revenue to pay for whatever programs, I've tied it to specific traffic projects for doing mast arm projects, sidewalks, pedestrian projects. So it can't go to the general fund just to pay whatever. It's got to go.
That sounds to me like it is about money, though.
No, it's because you're not making it. It is truly public safety. I know I've run a wrecker in this town for 30 years, and I've seen the aftermath of people that run red lights and what it causes and what happens. And as I go through the community talking to people, they go, why aren't the cameras up yet? Why aren't, the answer is not hiring more cops. It costs too much money. Why don't we use the technology? Why are you waiting so long to get the cameras up? If you don't run the red light, you won't get a ticket.
Interesting. We'll have the why not more cops discussion since I was one most of my life, but that's for another time. This is about you guys. Tim, give me your view on red light cameras, please.
Well, first, just to kind of talk a little bit about roads, the first question I have for Mike here in a minute is why are we using city funds to pave roads? Why don't we try to pursue state and county funds to do that and use that? Secondly, on the red light traffic cameras, I'm against red light traffic cameras. I think there's all kinds of constitutional issues associated with the red light cameras. Also, the cost of them is going to cost the taxpayers of Melbourne about $4,200 per camera. The plan is right now to expand the program to 4 intersections. You multiply that times 4 cameras at each intersection. That's 16 cameras times the $4,200. You're looking at a possible $800,000 annually that the red light traffic cameras are going to cost. So there is a cost associated with it. And again, this is another one of those issues that voters think is an infringement. It's big government at its worst. It's a money grab, and voters are not, at least the voters I talk to, are not in favor of that.
I'm going to bring one other issue to the table before I turn this over to you guys to question each other. And, Tim, we'll start this one with you. Tell me your thoughts on community redevelopment agencies. Have they been successful in the city? Is there a reason to continue? And what's your vision for those in the future?
I'm against them. I think they're usually mismanaged. And so I'm against those types of things. And I think that we need to use city money. We had like a $1.2 million, excess this budget year, and I think we can use city money to help with those community development areas, and not use taxpayers or give tax rebates in order to do that.
All right, Mike Nowlin, let's talk to you about CRAs. Where they worked, where haven't they worked, and what's the proper use of them?
The CRAs, especially in Melbourne, are very well managed. The money stays in the area that they're in. And look at downtown Melbourne. 15 years ago, nobody wanted to go there. Now it's like the hot spot. Everybody goes there. We've got, nightlife, restaurants. Everybody likes downtown Melbourne, and that's a product of the CRA. They're fixing to start the expansion down US 1, I believe, as far as Line Street. And I'm hoping to see that as a New Orleans-style jazz nightlife kind of thing to bring that area up and make it, the property values come up and have some more participation in the CRA area. In downtown O'Galley, we've got the Main Street designation. It is an art walk, artist community, and that's coming along. It's slow, but it's coming along. And then look at the downtown Babcock area. That's another CRA, which, we've getting some redevelopment in there. They're starting to bring some more business back to the downtown Babcock area. So it's working well, and the money gets spent there. It improves the infrastructure there and allows for people to have facade programs and upgrade their businesses with a small match from the city.
So on facade programs, it's okay to take tax dollars and give it to individual business owners to improve their business without them having to make that investment.
Well, no, they have to make a huge investment. The maximum you can get, I believe, is like $15,000. But in order to get 15, the business owner puts out like 50 or 60. It's a small match. But
still okay to take tax dollars and give it to that individual in your mind.
In the CRA area, that's what they've decided to do, and it's working well in Melbourne.
Tim, I would imagine you have a different viewpoint on that.
Yeah, I totally disagree with that, and I don't think that we should be using taxpayer dollars for that. Again, if we have a little bit of excess money in the city budget, let's use some of that money for these community development areas. All
right. Tim Thomas, we're going to let you have a question for Mike Nowlin.
Mike, again, I appreciate you being here today. And Mike's a very nice guy. We talk occasionally, and I appreciate you being here. The question I have for you, Mike, is I know in August you went down to a conference down in Hollywood, Florida, I think for the Florida League of Cities. Mm-hmm. And as I go and I look at that agenda for that meeting there, most of the speakers were liberal Democrats, mayors of cities up north. There was also a columnist from Newsweek magazine who's very liberal. And so I'm just kind of curious, what type of conservative policies did they talk about at that conference that you learned about that's going to help the taxpayers here back in Melbourne as far as creating jobs and keeping taxes lower?
Well, one of the biggest things they were talking about, we went to one of the discussions on pensions, and there was a lot of discussion about how you can work through the pensions and help reduce pensions without affecting the people that are already there. And there was a big, Naples is having an issue with the funding because they were going to lose the state funding. And so when you look at the funding of the pensions and stuff, that was probably the biggest thing I took away from that conference, is just trying to help us understand, because they're so complicated, these pension funds. They're not like a regular 401k. The state makes rules, and then you've got unions to deal with. So that's probably the biggest thing I dealt with was trying to learn some more about the police and fire pensions.
All right, very good. Mike? Your question for Tim Thomas.
Well, I know that since I've been involved in the city for the last 14 years, I haven't seen you on any boards or any city functions, and I was wondering how, with all the intricacies of city politics, since you haven't been involved, how do you expect to move forward?
Well, there's one thing I do know, Mike, and I know my values. And I don't want to do anything to raise taxes on the people of Melbourne. I don't want to do anything that's going to kill job creation. And that's one thing that I can guarantee the people of Melbourne I'm not going to do. As far as what I've been doing here in the city the last 6 years since I've been here is I've been very active in the community. Obviously, I teach ROTC at Vieira High School, so I've been very busy in developing the character of young men and women across our county and being active in a lot of the rec leagues here as far as sports leagues. So I have been a part of the community, but just watching from a distance and seeing what's been going on at the city council, there were some concerns I had. And so I decided to throw my hat in the ring as a result of some of these concerns. And again, the conservative principles of being a Republican as far as less government, lower taxes, and fiscal responsibility. Your voting record doesn't show that. And so I think the city of Melbourne deserves better, and that's why I've decided to throw my hat in the ring.
Really? I find that hard to believe because, I brought up the fact that we need less government at the city council. So we have 2 council members that were going to be termed out in 2014. I brought to the council I wanted to reduce the size of council by 2 and make us all single-member districts. Council voted that down. They're going to raise water rates in 2014. I said, no, I don't want to raise those rates. Let's look at how you're doing your business, restructure, and not raise that 7%. Yeah, we might need a raise to do some infrastructure stuff, but we may not need 7%. We may only need 1 or 2. But I was the only council member that voted no about raising your water rates in 2014.
And I can say, too, the redistricting motion that you brought up to the city council, that was pretty embarrassing because you didn't even get a second motion on that, and it died as soon as you brought it up to motion. And I think most of your teammates on the city council felt like they were kind of thrown under the bus, and that caught them completely by surprise. And it looked self-serving. It looked like a strictly political move. And, again, it didn't paint you in a good light. And I know you're a better person than that.
Yeah, I don't know how it'd be self-serving when you're trying to reduce government. I mean, I thought that's what we're all about is reduce government and reduce – we were going to reduce the salaries and, you would have lost 2 council members, which would have been better for everybody. Then as you go forward, how can you ask staff to keep reduce when you're not reducing at the top? Council didn't want to do that, so okay.
Well, if you're looking to possibly run for mayor of the city of Melbourne someday, and you went to Galley High School, so you consolidate 2nd District into 1st District, that would give you a distinct advantage, I think, one day if you decided to run for mayor. So that seemed very political. It wasn't transparent, and so I think your teammates felt like you threw them under the bus.
Yeah, I never thought about it that way. I try not to look too, as far as my political life, I don't look down the road 4, 5, 6 years. I look what's going to be best for the city in the long term, but as far as me personally, it's not about me. It's about the city.
Mike Nowlin, Tim Thomas, gentlemen, we're not going to settle it all here, but I thank you both for coming in and hashing it out, and folks, as they watch this, be able to see what both of you candidates are thinking. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you, sir.
We'll see you here next time on WMMBAM.com. Thank you so much.